One of the stories that has always intrigued me is when the disciples are in a storm in the boat with Jesus. It's a story we often sail by, no pun intended, but it's a moment of crisis. It's a moment of life or death. It's a moment of despair. It says in the account in Mark 8, it says that the disciples went and woke Jesus up. He had been sleeping, saying, Lord, save us, we are going to drown. And when it says that Jesus got up and looked at the disciples and said, You have little faith, why are you so afraid? He then rebuked the wind and the waves, and it became completely still. And today I want to talk to you about stress and how stress seems to mount in our lives. And again, this story has fascinated me because many on that boat were fishermen. Many on that boat, was their livelihood, that was their profession, that is what they've spent hours and years, day in, day out, learning that craft, mastering that craft, making money on that craft. So for them to be afraid of being in a storm, it must have been a pretty major storm. It must have been a moment where their life was in the balance. They were in a dire situation and where they were in a bigger than they could fix problem. And the stress came. The other thing that fascinates me about that story is that when Jesus calms the winds and the waves, most everything in the narrative is still the same. The disciples are still in a boat. Jesus is still in a boat. The boat is still in the middle of this water, this lake, this sea. The only thing that has changed is the storm has been silenced. The storm has been staved off. And I wonder if we can relate to the disciples, how they felt, the cry, the anguish, the pending doom. What are the things that cause you to have a level 10 stress in life? Each of us have different stress indicators or stress storms. They come in all types of sizes from all directions. But what is your stress 10? What is your stress storm? Is it the deadline that is approaching at work or with a project at school? Is it when your children are not under your care or watchful eye or supervision? Is it the concern you feel over the welfare of a loved one? Is it others who rely on you to make decisions and rely on you with certain responsibilities? Is it not having enough time, not having enough money, not having enough friends? What are the things that cause you to white knuckle through the storm of life? What is it that causes you to lose heart? What is it that causes you to feel like you're running into a brick wall? And so stress is not a it's a silent and unrelenting killer. Stress compounds many problems. Because of stress, anxiety rises. Because of stress, we have high blood pressure. Because of stress, you may have a migraine, a headache. Because of stress, you're more irritable with others. Because of stress, you may have high blood pressure, chest pain, and even sleepless nights. And stress has a way of just doing damage to our body like a hurricane storm would to a portion of land. I want to encourage you today, in the midst of the stress storm, in the midst of the stress season, because I don't know about you, it feels like the stress season happens multiple times a year, multiple times a month, and even multiple times a day. Jesus wants to give you peace, friend. He is the Prince of Peace. He is the one, his government is marked by peace. He is the God who delivers peace. And he spoke to that wind and to that wave and said, Stop. And it stopped. In Philippians 4:6, Paul reminds us of this amazing opportunity we have to seek the Lord. It says, Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything in prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses or transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Again, nothing, the thing that changed in the story was the storm. They were still in the same location. They were still with Jesus. They were still in the boat. So no matter what is looking around you difficultly, maybe it's your marriage, maybe it's a child in your home, maybe it's finances or a job, maybe there's something wrong physically and in your health. Maybe there's just been a cloud over your thinking and over your clarity and over your peace. That would you allow the peace power of Jesus to enter in? Jesus is the one, I want to say this, he is the Prince of Peace who is abiding with you and residing over the tidal waves crashing down and the dark clouds hovering over you. Let me say that again. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, abiding with you and residing over the tidal waves that come crashing down on you and the dark storm clouds hovering and overshadowing you. Let's allow Jesus to get the stress out so we will not stress out. Be at peace, my friend.